Happy Sunday. I am Robyn Flynn. I apologize. I have a bit of a cold, so my voice sounds a little gravelly, a little bit like Phoebe from Friends when she has a cold, if you will. Joined in studio, as always, by Fred Pichette and Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Robyn, I have 2 words for you.
What's that?
Word number 1 starts with Taylor. Word number 2 starts with Swift. I just want to know if you're okay and if you've recovered from Taylor Swift mania.
Why do you think I sound like this? Great album, by the way.
Is it?
Highly recommend. I think
Okay.
I've listened to it like 20 times.
She is a marketing genius.
She really is. She really is.
And the movie?
Movie was so much fun.
Okay.
So
Glitter?
much fun.
A little bit of glitter?
A lot of glitter, a lot of sequins, a lot of friendship bracelets, a lot of singing. It was a
fun.
very fun experience. Cool. Yeah, definitely worth it. Joining us as well is Thierry Bourbonnais from the Plex Doctor. Hey, Thierry, how are you?
Good afternoon, Robyn.
So it's not a secret anymore. LJ announced it on social media, but he is a father for the second time, so that's why he's not been here for the last couple of weeks. His wife just gave birth
LJ.
to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. Mom and baby are doing well, so he'll be back when everything settles down. I don't know that it ever will now that you've got 2 kids at home.
Well,
but
he's on pat leave. Good for him.
yeah, very important to take some time with the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we keep things moving here. We'll start with our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center in DDO. The first person to text in the correct response to 514-790-0800 will receive cookies from Felix and Norton. Our question this week: what does amortization period mean?
Say that again?
What does amortization period mean? If you think you know it, 514-790-0800. Please include your name so we can give you a shout out on the air. Guys, lots of stuff in the news this week. Interest rates were cut a few weeks ago. We still have 2 more announcements. Economists are expecting the Bank of Canada to make at least 1 more cut before the end of the year. Inflation is still kind of precarious. What are some of the forces driving inflation and ultimately the Bank of Canada's decision to cut interest rates or not?
Who wants to take it? You want to go for it? All
Well,
right. It's up to you.
well, first, probably is the tariff. The import duty have raised cost on good, and even if they roll back, those effects don't disappear overnight. Secondly, the government spending. Deficit can fuel inflation. If they pump up demand without adding supply, smart investment in housing or infrastructure can ease pressure over time. And finally, what people see the most is energy, especially gas price. If you went to the pump lately, it's going up and up. Like this is also one of the reasons inflation where it's going right now.
So you mentioned 2 more announcements from the Bank of Canada, October and December. I was on with Elias this week, and my prediction is that October we're going to stay the course because we're going to wait for the budget to come out. And we know that in the budget there'll be huge infrastructure expenditures. And so how are they going to affect inflation, and what's the budget going to look like? And I agree with Fred. What impacts us the fastest and the quickest are gas prices. So I was actually tanking up yesterday. I thought the gas prices were reasonably reasonable, if that can be said. But that's always a concern because gas prices have a direct effect on food prices and transportation, because most of the things that get delivered to a grocery store come by a truck. A truck has to be fueled up. Fuel prices go up. Transport companies pass those costs on to us.
Thierry, how close do you monitor these announcements from the Bank of Canada as a property manager? Does it really affect your day-to-day work that you do with landlords and building owners?
Usually not really, like not the day-to-day, but for the long-term plan, maybe of the landlord, just if they want to grow, if they want to acquire a new property, that's something they will look at and could be discussed. But it's not one announcement that will change anything of the course of an investor.
And I imagine you do pay attention to gas prices because you're driving around to properties all the time,
That's
right?
true.
So that's one thing that definitely impacts you guys. It looks like Canada is going to avoid a recession, apparently. That's the article I read this week.
we were in a recession.
That's what I thought. Are people just afraid of saying the word recession because it's bad politically?
Well, whether we're in a recession or we've got a pretty beat up economy, one and the same. So, we mentioned it earlier. U.S. tariffs are dragging us down, especially with steel, aluminum, auto, and copper. They hammered exports early in the year. Those are starting to recover or starting to rebound, but very slowly. Looking ahead, growth is predicted to be about 1% in 2025, 2026. Unemployment is also a great indicator. We're not going in the right direction. We could see unemployment go past 7%, if not closer to 8%. In terms of mortgages, unfortunately, what's bad news for one is good news for other. Because when we seize those types of situations arrive, what the Bank of Canada does is lower its overnight rate or its prime rate to stimulate the economy. So, but we often say it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. So if you're sitting back and you're wondering, should I lock in? Should I refinance? So we're getting a lot of people who signed up, a year and a half, 2 years ago at 5.5, and they're calling us up and saying, hey, I noticed that interest rates right now are in the high 3s, low 4s. Is it worth my while to break my mortgage now and reinstate a new mortgage? Yes and no. It's all math. So you have to look at the size of the mortgage that you're sitting on currently. Is it worth it? Because, if you break your term early, there is a penalty. And if you want to reinstate a mortgage, you got to go back to the notary. So those are two really important costs that you have to look at. What's the penalty going to look like? And obviously, if you got to go back to the notary, it's another $2,000. So if you've got a very small mortgage, like $150,000, $200,000, maybe it's not worth your while. But if you've got a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 mortgage, maybe it's time to just take a look, run the numbers, or give us a call, and we'll run the numbers for you.
It usually depends on the penalty. Like if the penalty is really too high, then the new interest rate will not offset that penalty.
From what I understand, the penalties associated with a fixed rate mortgage being broken versus a variable rate mortgage are very different, right?
Well, the penalty is different. On a variable rate mortgage, which is great, it's only 3 months of interest, which is usually the lowest penalty in the market. On the other hand, on fixed rate, why would you break your mortgage? It's because you want to get a better interest rate. And on the fixed rate is we call that the IRD, the interest rate differential, which is usually cost you much more than a variable rate. In fact, we have to crunch a number and see if it's beneficial for you to break your mortgage and reinstruct a new loan at a better interest rate.
Because I think I've told this story before. We had a client call us up, and she had unfortunately or fortunately just re-signed her mortgage, but they got into a bit of a jam, a little bit of credit card debt, a little of this, a little of that. And we found her a great mortgage under great terms, under great conditions. And there was one last thing to go and check. And it's something that we can't do for the client has to do on their own. And she called the holder of her current mortgage to find out what her penalty would be. And it turned out to be almost $20,000. So she called us up and she said, Fred Martin, I'd love to do this because I see the advantage of doing this right now, but the penalty is just insurmountable and it's just not worth to pull the trigger on this at this current time. We said, absolutely, we totally agree. Wait. And then that penalty, the longer you go into your mortgage, the longer your mortgage, or the closer you get to the maturity date of your mortgage, the lower that penalty would be. And then there's a sweet spot. And once you hit that sweet spot, call us back and we'll reinstate or we'll get you a new mortgage so you can reinstate your terms and conditions.
It's always worth having that conversation with Fred and Martin, though, to figure out what your options are. My husband and I are refinancing our house a little bit early. Had a great conversation with Fred about it this week. There's no one I trust more with my own mortgage than Fred and Martin. So you should absolutely check out their website, fredandmartin.com. Still to come, we have Thierry Bourbonnais in studio. We're going to ask him for some of the craziest stories he has as a property manager. That's after we check traffic. I'm Robyn. That's Fred. That is Martin. That is Thierry. We are with you until 1 p.m. We want to open up the floor to you throughout this show. If ever you have any questions, you can call or text us at 514-790-0800. Last week, we had a lot of texts about the welcome tax. So we wanted to address some of those this week. Specifically, somebody asked last week, if I want to add my wife to the title of the house, do I have to pay the welcome tax again? We got a lot of texts from people who said, I refinanced after a divorce or had to buy my house back and I had to pay a welcome tax. Now, Martin, I know you checked in with a notary to get an answer to this question.
So wife or husband. I always find that the welcome tax has a funny name. It's basically welcome to the neighborhood, time to pay. So the welcome tax is basically, or that taxe de bienvenue is normally charge when a property changes ownership. However, there are important exemptions in the law. So I wanted to make sure I checked with a notary. So the answer that she validated is as follows. There's a spousal exemption. So if you're simply adding your wife or husband to the title and you're legally married or in a civil union, then under Quebec's loi concernant les droits sur les mutations immobilières, the transfer from the welcome tax. This means you would not have to pay the welcome tax again in this case. However, common law de facto spouses, so conjoints de fait as we call them, so you're not legally married or in a civil union, the exemption does not automatically apply. In this case, the municipality could charge you the tax on the portion that's being transferred. But what the notary told me this week is some of the municipalities are different from others. It's not one size fits all. So before you decide to do this, call a notary. Because when you do the transfer, you're going to have to go to a notary anyway. So you may as well be informed before you decide to move forward.
Very important. Great advice. 514-790-0800. If you have any questions for Fred, Martin, or Thierry, you can text them in and we can try to answer them on the show. Since we have Thierry Bourbonnais from Plex Doctor here, we want to talk about property management. Now, I imagine, Thierry, you're going around to different buildings all the time. You're dealing with big personalities, different characters. You probably have seen some things.
Yes, absolutely.
What kind of things? Like, I'm always interested in, like, what are the craziest stories you've heard? Like, I know probably you've gotten some maintenance calls. I've got a leak. But have you ever had, like, weird maintenance calls or requests?
Yeah, there's one that come to mind is we got it actually this summer. We had a tenant calling me completely panicked. Like, I feel this fear in her voice. It completely panicked me at the same time. She screamed at me at first, like, there's a snake, Thierry. And I'm like, oh, a snake. And I react like I was stressed for her, you know. And for a split second, my mind went right away like in solution mode. Like, what do I do now? Do I call an exterminator? Is that the SPCA for a snake? Like, how many units we have in this building? Is it the plumbing the problem? Have I ever seen like a reptile or any snake in one of the tenant unit? And then finally I asked her like right away, like my first question was like, where did you see it? She's like, it's right there. It's right there. So I was panicked. I was like, okay, where? Like, please put yourself in security and tell me where it is. Okay. Now I'm inside. She told me like, okay, where is it? It's going now through the grass. I'm like, wait.
It's outside?
Yeah, it's outside. It's like, yes. I'm like, okay. Now I could breathe. And it was just a small garden snake going in the grass because there was the wooden area there. But for a second, I got like a spike of adrenaline.
Yeah.
That kind of call, we have it a lot. So it's pretty much tenant will call us
For anything.
For anything and stress. And it's like, it's something like urgent. And we need like to have like some kind of distance and being able to calm the tenant down and say like, look, like what's the situation exactly? What you can do now and what we will do next. So that's kind of situation happen like regularly.
My first apartment, my roommate had a snake that was well contained in a tank and it escaped. And we didn't see her here. We tried to find this thing for weeks, couldn't find it. We assumed the snake is no more. He is no longer with us. And then one night I woke up in the middle of the night to our third roommate screaming in the middle of the night. The snake was cuddling up with her in bed. Made himself known after being missing for a few weeks. Don't keep snakes as pets.
Any snake is too much snake for
Way
me.
too much snake. Way too much snake. Okay, what is the hardest part of your job, Thierry? For me, I think it would be like getting a phone call at 2 a.m. That would probably drive me crazy.
Yes, but it's also just the fact that we're handling the stress of the tenant, the situation. Like it's sometimes really urgent, or sometimes it's just the expectation of the tenants. It's a little bit too urgent, maybe. So what we wanted to do is to help the tenant while keeping the timeline reasonable. Like that's the hardest thing, I will say. We have also all the legal side in Quebec that we need really to be aware of. All the TAL law, the process to go through it. So it's really important to have good guidance in that aspect and have everything in writing. And I also say that for the tenant, like to protect them, like please, I know you send me a voice message, but
you ask them to send you an email.
Yeah, exactly. Send me an email. Even a text could be fine, but anything in writing so we can show a judge or someone like the differences. And also maybe I will say like dealing with trades. So making sure you have great plumber, electrician, contractor that show up on time, do quality work. It's something kind of usually difficult to get. When you get somebody, then you really trust them. We have to also manage the price of it because sometimes it could go high, and we have to explain to our client and anyone that it's not always the cheapest version that is the best. We prefer someone that will do the work well and do it once, and it's sure it's gonna be fine for the rest. That would be the hardest part of it, I will say.
Yeah, I guess some property owners just want the cheapest solution possible, right?
Yeah, but that's the part that we need to explain. It's for the long-term investment and how it's gonna protect their building. Usually, it's a quick conversation because for sure when we get, let's see, 4 quotes and you'll see like the cheapest, you will be, oh, this is a good one, but we will just make sure that we vet all those quotes before.
Yeah, the other thing is there are a lot of jobbers out there. Yeah, I can fix your plumbing. Yeah, I can do your electrical. But it's really important to use licensed plumbers and licensed electricians for liability. God forbid something happens and the insurance company does their audit and they realize that your plumber or your electrician isn't licensed. You could probably have a tough time getting reimbursed for whatever damage was caused or whatever incident took place.
Absolutely, 100%.
What's the best part of your job, Thierry?
Personally, for me, it's about problem solving. So the situation that I take it as a challenge, small or big, finding the solution for everyone. I love building a relationship also with the tenant, trades, the owner, and know the people behind the properties. That will be for myself. And as the job, I will say it's turning the problem building into like a well-run space with watching the community come alive in there. We had situation that we had like building that were really problematic, and just some small change made all the people communicate more, being more patient with each other, with us also. So sometimes it's simple as putting some cedar outside, like some greens, instead of having like a big fence. Like we're just putting something like more natural, and people will like have a calmer situation, let's say, and we will take more care of their space after that. So, and it's another thing we like a lot. It's seeing like small businesses from scratch and growing to like favorite spot of Montreal or anything like that. It's very interesting also to see business there.
It came down to be a people business. Like you're dealing with tenants and the landlord. Like
it's 100% that, and it always like it's important that we put ourselves at their situation also. So the tenant, there's their situation, how we can get it better, you know. So it's very important. Yeah.
What do you do if you got a sixplex and you got 5 great tenants? And you've got one black sheep, one guy or one person just ruining it for everybody else. What kind of moves can you make on this tenant so you can bring back the harmony of the building?
I will say listen to that tenant probably. So take a moment when we do walkthrough every year, and we meet usually with the tenant and we'll speak with them. And sometimes we have tenant like around saying like, okay, this person is doing too much noise, or this person is starting their washing machine at 2 a.m, and try to understand why. So we will meet with them if it's not an emergency, for sure. If they start at 2 a.m, that's different. But if it's not an emergency, we will meet with them, listen to them, what's their situation, what's their reality, and how we can solve it for everybody, make it a little bit better.
But it's really tough under the laws to actually move and try to get rid of that tenant.
Absolutely. If it doesn't harm the building as itself,
right,
it's very hard. Even like for noise complaint, we have some limits. So it's at some point the limit is like, look, we tell them, we send them like notice, but you have to call the police if he's starting to make noise at 2 a.m. No, the property manager have no like.
So is there a time, like, you know, he's a drummer and he's practicing until 2 a.m. Is there a time, or he's a trumpet player and he plays until 3 o'clock in the morning? Is there a time limit, like at 10 o'clock he has to stop?
We are going to get Thierry's answer to that question.
Cliffhanger
After we check traffic. Don't forget to take a stab at our trivia question of the week for your chance to win some cookies from Felix and Norton. Our question this week: what does amortization period mean? 514-790-0800 if you think you know it. We'll have the answer to that question a little bit later on in the show. Martin, you had a question for Thierry just before we went to traffic. What was that question?
Getting rid of a bad tenant before you start losing good tenants because of one bad tenant.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, it was about the noise, like a
Yep.
drummer, like let's say at what
Trumpet
time
Trumpet
player,
player.
yeah.
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 That's what I want, is a trumpet player at 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Or to live next door to me when I was in high school taking bagpipe lessons.
Oh!
Oh,
I'm sure it was fun to be my neighbor because there's nothing worse than bagpipes than someone learning to play the bagpipes. But what would you do in that situation, Thierry?
so first of all, when we sign a tenant in the building, we have rules. So that tenant sign the rules. The rules are you have no like excessive noises after 10 and not before 7. Also, no any activity that will carry or disturb the other tenant in the building. That's something we sign. Legally, it will be after 11. You can call, let's say, if you have too much noise, like somebody like having a huge party, you could call the police and maybe they're going to send somebody to go over.
The most common thing I've seen, I'm in a lot of mommy groups on Facebook, and people who are living in apartments are receiving complaints from their neighbors when their babies are crying in the middle of the night because it's so loud and the baby's crying every night. They call the cops on them. This is something I see all the time in Montreal mom groups on Facebook.
No.
Not much you can do about
Absolutely.
a baby crying at 2 in the morning, right? So I feel like at a certain point you have to understand you're living in a shared space. Some noise is expected. That comes with living in a shared space, right? Okay, we want to talk about reverse mortgages. This is something you, Fred and Martin, get a lot of questions about on the regular. And I think reverse mortgages sometimes get a bit of a bad rap. We were talking about this before the show, Fred. Why are people reticent to go with a reverse mortgage?
Well, technically, the reverse mortgage, it's an excellent product for people who are running out a bit of saving and they want to live in their property longer. And instead of taking a line of credit or another loan, they use a reverse mortgage to help to stay in their property and pay the expense like healthcare and so on and forth, it's an excellent product, a reverse mortgage. Why we call it reverse mortgage? It's because that's important to know. You have no monthly payment of principal and interest compared to a regular mortgage, or you have to make your monthly payment towards the principal in the interest. By not paying any payment every month, it really helps to you to stay in your property.
So there's criteria, right? You have to be 55 and over. You can tap into up to 55% of the appraised value. And why do I underline appraised? Because we had a situation in a condo in Old Montreal that was actually appraised under the municipal appraisal. And the tenant actually, or our client, was very upset by that because obviously the more it's appraised for, the more equity you can pull out and the larger reverse mortgage you can have access to. So it's the appraised value, and there's no debate. We don't hire the appraiser. The lender hires the appraiser, and they go with the appraised value of it. And so the other criteria that are attached to this has to be your principal residence. If you and your wife or you and your husband are on title, you both have to apply. The funds can be advanced in a lump sum, but there is a minimum that once your loan is granted that you have to take out. But then after that, it can be in regular advances or a combination of both. The amount depends on your age. So obviously, the older you are, the more access you have. The property's value, its location, and the type of property that it is all factor in on how much the lender is willing to give you. There are no monthly payments. So if you've got a cash flow crunch, in other words, your pension, whether it's QPP, old age, or even your pension from where you used to work, is just making it tough to make ends meet, there's a great opportunity for you to tap into the equity in your house to subsidize your monthly expenses. The amount you take out is obviously the amount that you're going to pay interest on. So it accumulates. So what happens is, so let's your house is appraised for $1 million, and you've taken $500,000 out, but you're using $50,000 a year. Slowly but surely, the amount of equity that's in your home will depreciate. The downside is, so you've got a couple kids going, "Hey, mom, dad, that's my inheritance that you're spending." My father will often say that, "Listen, I earned that money. That money is in my house, and I and your mother can use it the way we choose to. we have less runway ahead of us. And Martin, Eric, Valerie, Elizabeth, you've got a lot more runway ahead of you, so you can actually earn some more money. So don't tell me how to spend my money.
But things are very different now. So, like, if you have adult children, it's much more difficult to make that first purchase for your property. Do you get a lot of clients who are taking out reverse mortgages to help adult children with the down payment for their homes?
Well, it happened to us, to Martin and I. We had one client. He says, well, I don't want to take my saving out to help my kids.
Yeah.
But I say, my house is paid off. I say, well, why don't you set up a reverse mortgage? And if you want to gift them 50 or 100,000, it's up to you. You know, and it ended up to be a good solution.
So what would be a better option for a retiree? Because I know some people probably would immediately gravitate towards a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. But in that case, you would have to make payments every month, right, Fred?
Well, exactly. You said it all, Robyn. When you have a line of credit, you're obliged to pay the interest every month. When you have a reverse mortgage, you don't make any payment. And that's where the difference is. Obviously, a reverse mortgage has a slightly higher interest rate than a line of credit, but not by much. But at the end of the day, not making any payment really helps you. I'll give you an example here. To take what Martin says, if you have a home value, you live in the West Island, your home value is $800,000, you're 80 years old, and you're applying for a reverse mortgage and you want to take out $100,000 at disbursement, well, guess what? After 5 years, your mortgage balance will be only $138,000. And still, your property will increase in value, which is, at the end of the day, it's not as bad as people think. It could turn out to be an excellent product for you.
We have a question here, if I may, gentlemen. What happens if you sell the house that you have reverse mortgaged?
Well, it's like any other mortgages. You're allowed to sell your house at any time. Obviously, it's a 5 years contract when you have a reverse mortgage. The penalty is a little bit higher on the first 3 years.
Okay.
But after 3 years, it's a regular penalty like any other banks, which is it's worth it to take a reverse mortgage if your saving are low or you're not have enough income with your pension.
So when you sell the house, whatever you get for the house pays off the reverse mortgage first.
Yeah, you reimburse the reverse mortgage, and whatever net goes to your bank account.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So this is the type of product that, we had a conversation with a gentleman this week, and I basically asked him, I said, how long do you want to stay in the house? And he goes, I'd like to stay until I go to the promised land. I said, there's enough equity in that house based on the pensions that you have and the little money that you need, and the fact that you're not going to be making monthly interest payments, or you're not going to be making any payments on a monthly basis, to allow you to stay 15, 20, 25 more years. And he goes, really? I said, absolutely. And we were talking about it, and Fred's 100% right. The interest rate might be slightly higher, and there are a couple of fees that you have to pay when you instate this type of mortgage, but your property continues to grow in value. So one offsets the other. And there was an article in the paper this week talking about the increase in value in homes. And I think homes in Montreal are up
11%?
What is it? It's 11%.
In September?
11% in September, year over year. And if you look at the median family home price, it's at $632, up 7%. Condos are up 4%. The median value is $430. So you look at these increases in value, and you look at what you're paying in interest, one offsets the other. So reverse mortgage is a very viable product.
Now, where do you go to get a reverse mortgage? Obviously, you contact Fred and Martin, but what are the lenders? What are the names that people might recognize?
Yeah, Robyn, there's two main lenders or providers. Are the first one, the most known in Quebec, in Canada, is Home Equity Bank, like CHIP Reverse Mortgage. But also right now in the market in Quebec, we have access to Equitable Bank, which is both operate nationally. They're excellent lender. They have pretty much the same condition and the same structure. Sometimes wants a little promotion with a better interest rate for the first year compared to the other one. But it's pretty much the same. Obviously, people knows reverse mortgage as a CHIP mortgage, but there's a few options out there, and apparently there's other lenders will start to offer that product soon too.
Because if you watch the CBC, CHIP runs advertising night and day. So that's the product we're talking about.
Okay, so CHIP, when you hear CHIP, that's reverse mortgage.
Yes,
CHIP is reverse mortgage.
It's Home Equity Bank, the real name, but the product is CHIP. Yes.
Everybody knows CHIP. So if you're interested in getting a reverse mortgage, then just give us a call and we'll run the numbers for you, and it'll be completely up to you. But if you're subsidizing your lifestyle by running up your credit cards or a line of credit or a HELOC, maybe a reverse mortgage is a better solution for you.
Yeah, and also it's very flexible, this product, because by any chance you're making extra money, you could also pay the interest every month if you want, or pay a portion of it. That will reduce your debt on the property.
Very important. To find out if that's an option for you, a reverse mortgage, get in touch with Fred and Martin by going to their website, fredandmartin.com. Their email addresses are there, their phone numbers are there, and I think you can even book meetings with you directly on your website.
Right
very,
through
very
the
cool.
website.
Okay, coming up, we have the answer to our trivia question of the week, and we'll announce the winner of some delicious cookies from Felix and Norton. Reminder, our question, what does amortization period mean? 514-790-0800. The answer is coming up after we check traffic. I am Robyn, that is Fred, that is Martin, that is Thierry. We got a question at 514-790-0800 about reverse mortgages, which we were talking about just before traffic. How much are the fees associated? So I imagine it's like getting a regular mortgage. You're going to have to go to notary. There's a bunch of fees associated with it, right?
Not quite like a regular mortgage. So there is an appraisal fee. There is a lender fee to open your file.
Okay.
There are legal fees because you have to see two notaries, one to judge that you're of same mind and the other one to do the transaction, and they have to be independent.
Okay.
So each of the lenders have their own fee structures, and often those fee structures change from day to day. In other words, they're running a special, we negotiate a lower fee, but there are upfront fees that you have to pay.
So keep that in mind when you're doing the reverse mortgage. Absolutely. So depending on, I guess, the value of the reverse mortgage, the fees would vary.
Because from the onset, sometimes it is a bit of a sticker shock, but it is a necessary. It's how the reverse mortgage companies operate.
Like you always say, Martin, there's no free lunch.
Yeah, there is definitely no free lunch.
Nobody's going to give it to you for free.
And it's funny, you know what? One thing, we mentioned this last week. We are live.
We are.
And we're getting texts and phone calls during the show, and we're happy that you guys are reaching out. But we need to wait till 1 o'clock before we can call you back. I can't call you back right now.
I love that. People calling and texting you. I'm on the air. If you text in at 514-790-0800, we will see your question and we can answer it on the air. If you need a more one-on-one approach, maybe wait till 1 o'clock after the guys are off the air.
We do operate 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but there's that 1 hour during the show that we can't really respond.
Exactly. Okay, speaking of texting into the station, our trivia question of the week, we have a winner, gentlemen. Our question this week was, what does amortization period mean? It is the total length of time it takes to pay off your mortgage in full. So typically your amortization period would be 25, 30 years. They're sort of the more common ones that you see. Our winner for this week is Sandra in Greenfield Park, who's getting some delicious cookies in the next few weeks from Felix and Norton Cookies. You should check them out, by the way, at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO.
And it's a small world. Sandra knows your dad.
Apparently. She said, by the way, say hi to your dad. I used to work with him at LaSalle Canvas. My dad worked there before I was born, so over 40 years ago. But I will definitely say hi. I'm sure he's going to go, oh, Sandra. That's what he always says when somebody says, say hi to your dad, which happens more often than you think. My dad was a school board commissioner for 20 years.
Okay.
So he, on the Rive Sud, my dad, everybody knows Will Flynn. He's your guy. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure to tell him that you said hi. So LJ is not here this week, but I do want to mention that you can still get in touch with his team by visiting their website at ljrealties.com. You can also follow him on social media because even though he's on paternity leave, he is still posting reels on Instagram and on TikTok. Very active at LJ Aguinaga. You can also get in touch with his team at 514-500-4040. If you are looking to free up some time, you own a multiplex, contact Thierry at Plex Doctor. How do people get in touch with you, Thierry?
They can reach us by phone at 514-709-6397. And also they can visit our website at www.plexdoctor.com.
I presume you're taking new clients. You always are.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. So get in touch. They're great to work with. Fred, Martin, where do people go to get in touch with you?
Well, I want to bring it up again because we talked about it in the first segment. Is if you've signed a mortgage that's in the 5s or low 6s, give us a call, because maybe it's time for you to break that current mortgage, because the interest rates now are favorable, that there might be a play for you to reinstate a new mortgage at a lower rate, even if you've got a penalty and another notary fee to pay. So it's all numbers. There's no emotion in this. It's black on white. So we'll run the numbers, and if it's worth your while, then you should pull the trigger. But, we use the word procrastinate, and it's sometimes seen as a nasty word. It's not going to get any better if you push it forward. You need to address it today. By procrastinating, it could be costing you thousands of dollars, and that's why Fred and I are here. We've got the time. We will run the numbers for you. We won't push you in a situation that you're not comfortable with, but if the numbers make sense, then do it. Don't procrastinate. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse.
I feel like we should almost do like a week-by-week update of how my refinancing is going with you guys so people can see the process.
Well, you know what? We talked about it before, and I've talked about it with my wife. They used to teach home economics, right? Financial literacy, and they've stopped doing that. And a lot of people just put their head in the sand. You'll complain that a liter of gas is $1.80 or $1.50, but you'll buy a bottle of Evian and it'll cost you $4. You don't complain about the Evian, but you'll complain about gas. You don't complain about how much you're paying on interest on your credit cards, but you'll agonize over how much you're paying on your mortgage. But you got to look at the credit card. That's where it's really hurting you. They compound daily, so the interest that you generate today, you're paying interest on tomorrow. So stop procrastinating, pick up the phone, call us, and we'll run the numbers for you. Numbers make sense, then we'll move forward. If they don't make sense, we will be straight with you and we'll say, doesn't make sense, wait 6 months and call us back.
What's also something I hadn't considered until I had my call with you guys was the possibility of paying off your car and rolling that into your mortgage because you'll get a lower interest rate.
Absolutely.
Do you know how cool that is? I'm going to have a paid off car.
A lot of people lease cars or they buy cars and they don't even look at the interest rate.
Well,
the interest rate can be unbelievably high.
I didn't know what my interest rate even was until Fred asked me.
Because they're not very forthcoming with that information when you buy a car.
You'll be surprised if you buy a car and your credit is not as good as you think.
Yep.
You could easily interest rate could be easily at 7, 8, 9%.
9%. Thank you very much.
Oh, your car was at 9%?
9%. So I'm going to roll that into my mortgage.
Well, because you're planning to keep the car forever, you may as well roll it into your mortgage.
Yep, exactly. I'm
then
happy to be forthright with my terrible financial situation.
And a lot of people, what they should do is that, those monthly payments that you're making, keep making them, but against your mortgage.
Yep.
Because you'll make your balance disappear. But a lot of people go, oh, okay, I've reset. I can start spending again.
No,
don't do that.
Yeah, I told David already, we're cutting up the credit cards. We're keeping one because you need to have a credit card.
Two.
Well, one for each of us, basically. Because you need it.
I think the key is just to control your credit cards.
I have no self-control, Fred. I need to cut them up.
Okay, well, I told people use your debit card as much as you can.
Yes.
And just put the extra on your credit
but
card.
Who's guilty?
Forget about the points,
Who's guilty? Is it the credit card holder or is it the credit card companies that keep giving you access to more credit cards? I mean, we're working with a client right now. They got 12 credit cards, but him and his wife, and they're all topped up.
Yikes.
And I sort of sit there and I go, they got 3 TD, 3 BMOs, they've got a Canadian Tire, they got a Costco, they got this. And don't these credit card companies, aren't there sort of some more moral obligation to stop allocating credit? Because they're just digging the holes deeper and deeper and deeper, and these do not go away. And there's a point of no return. When you get to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in debt and credit cards, you're never going to dig yourself out of the hole because the interest is so high.
And what's nice about being a homeowner is you at least have an option to pull yourself out. If that has ever
You've got one, maybe 2 options.
But
you
if you
can't
didn't
do it
own
on a yearly basis. You can't keep refinancing.
Of course.
You're going to run out of equity.
But if you didn't own a home, you would have no option.
Absolutely.
So that's another, tick in the pro column for being a homeowner, as if you needed one at this point.
Best way to create wealth is to buy a home.
Absolutely. That's pretty much it for us for this week. If you want to ask the guys a question and have the answer featured on the show, you can email us at info@underoneroofmtl.com, or you can text us at 514-790-0800. If you missed anything, you can listen to this show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. For Thierry, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robyn. Have a great Sunday.